Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to an exciting topic, ethics and artificial intelligence. I'm Dr. Cynthia Nicola. I'm a professor of business management at Carlow University, and I have done some research in this area as in artificial intelligence, as well as taught business ethics for quite a few years. At this time, I want to give special recognition to a research assistant that I had on a very specific project regarding artificial intelligence and ethics, and that's Dylan D'Alessio, who has since graduated from Carlow. He has contributed to much of the information that you'll see here. Our project actually centered on investigating artificial intelligence and how it's being applied in business today. And that's all the functional areas of business, not just one or another. We were starting to be concerned in our curriculum development that we weren't including enough for our students in the area of artificial intelligence, and that would be in accounting, forensic accounting, business management, human resources, and even information technology. So Dylan and I explored artificial intelligence's growing presence in business. Many of you are already using it. And what started to come about were many ethical questions, some of them quite serious. So as a result of all this research, we compiled everything according to functional area of business. And then we decided to create some suggestions for higher education, professional associations, and industry. Now, it's helpful to know what exactly we mean by artificial intelligence. And investigating this, it was quite interesting to me to find that the first real definition was actually formed in 1955 by John McCarthy, who was a computer scientist. He basically believed that every aspect of learning or feature of intelligence could be duplicated by a machine. And he was correct. That's exactly the way that we're headed. Many of you are already using Alexa and Siri, and some of you may even have encountered artificial intelligence in some of your customer service interactions. So what is it? It's basically thinking like a human, a machine thinking like a human. It basically includes three processes: learning. Artificial intelligence can screen through amazing amounts of data and learn from it and apply rules to it. It can even detect different types of patterns in order to help you make decisions. And the third part is quite interesting to me, and this is where I get a little bit afraid, is that it has the ability to self-correct. So you're actually creating an intelligence that becomes wise over time. And that is quite a powerful thought. When we look at some of the statistics, I find it interesting that many people are unaware how much artificial intelligence is going to impact our world, and that is personally and professionally. So it's predicted to grow 48% in my field, which is education, within the next 2 years. I had never heard that statistic before. It's being used in business strategy implementation, and sales professionals, mortgage banks are all using artificial intelligence already. And later on, we're going to discuss some of the ways that they are being used and will be used. Americans basically support the advancement of artificial intelligence, but when I talk to people, many of them are afraid of the impact it will have on their jobs, their immediate jobs, and their future careers, especially students that are graduating now with absolutely no background in artificial intelligence. The Future Jobs Report from the World's Economic Forums told us that 75 million jobs will be cut, but we're going to add 133 million jobs in the next 2 years. Those jobs are going to be very specific what will be added, and there will be a challenge of bringing skills up for the current workforce so that they'll be able to compete and have lifelong employment. By 2030, 70% of companies will be using some type of artificial intelligence, and a significant percentage, a third, are not sure about it or aren't committed to using AI. I think some people are in denial about buying into it, what it means, what it is, how to choose the best AI system for their business. However, when you look at the big four, they are already into heavy use of artificial intelligence in reviewing leases, in reviewing investment agreements, looking at detecting fraud, legal contracts, and so on. The companies that are leading us in artificial intelligence development are the United States and China, or they are in the United States and China. You see the list here of the United States companies. There's no big surprise there. And there are 3 that are leading in China. China will be very interesting to watch as a world economy because in July of 2017, the State Council of China developed a policy called the New Generation Artificial Intelligence Plan. And it's basically China's strategy to become the leading artificial intelligence power within the next decade. So by 2030, they expect to be the leading power. In February of 2019, President Trump passed the American Artificial Intelligence Initiative executive order to try and accelerate U.S. research, development, and use of artificial intelligence, and also to protect any critical AI technology that we develop from foreign entities. So you can see there's a race on. And the interesting thing about the race is, as countries buy into artificial intelligence research and development and use, we cannot be sure who's using it for what purpose. The general benefits of artificial intelligence is that there are many. First, it's going to elevate the role of knowledge workers. What that means is you're going to have higher level skills needed in the workforce. People that can be discerning decision makers, people that understand the technology, but also know what to watch for with the gaps in the technology and errors that can be created. It's going to change organizational structures. We're going to become much more cross-functional in what we do in companies, because people will be able to share information at any time, any way possible, and decisions will be able to be made more quickly. So information sharing is going to explode. Hopefully, companies are going to be thinking, let's start putting this in our business strategy from the beginning. Let's put it in our mission statements. Let's put it in our values. Because as it creates efficiencies in production, as with any technology, companies are more apt to buy into, oh, let's get it to be competitive, without thinking through the long-term effects or the societal effects of the intelligence that they're buying into. So part of my goal is to try and create an awareness of its uses and what it's capable of doing so that people can ask those hard ethical questions. Now what we're going to do is get into some of the functional areas of business and or different types of industries. I'm going to talk first on each slide about how artificial intelligence is being used in that area or organization or industry. And then I'm going to talk on the next slide about ethical questions that we need to ask or what we need to be aware of. The first one is in finance and business. A survey by Fannie Mae found that 40% of mortgage banks are already deploying artificial intelligence. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to determine or to consolidate, I should say, the application process for loans and mortgages. And they are also predicting the likelihood of if a borrower, an applicant, will default. So more and more intelligence is being used for mortgage decisions. It can map out risk assessments, determine bonus accruals, and they're even using chatbots for customer service and self-serve platforms. I have to tell you, it was pretty recent, probably about a year ago, that I encountered my first chatbot without knowing it. I was contacting a company online about something, a product that I was interested in that I had purchased and had some questions about. And I saw on their website that I had the ability to do a chat. So I thought, okay, this will be great. I won't have to wait on the telephone. I'll get into the chat and I'll ask my question. So I typed in my question and I got an answer. And the answer somewhat puzzled me because it didn't seem like the answer was answering my question. So I typed it in again and in a little bit of a different way. And there was a pause and I got the same answer back. So what occurred to me, because I've been in business for quite a number of years, is that maybe the service representative, English was not their primary language, because I have encountered that before. So I thought, okay, maybe they're not understanding the way I have this worded, so I'm going to word it a little bit differently and ask my question again. Ask my question again, worded it differently. There was a substantial, what I consider a substantial pause, and a comment came back, "Thank you. I will now connect you to a live service representative." So I wasn't even talking with a person. I was interacting with an AI mechanism. And I have to say, it gave me goosebumps. I was not prepared for that. I did not know that that company was using AI, and it a little bit unnerved me. Once I, of course, got the live service rep, they were able to take care of my issue and answer my question with no problem. So there still are some kinks to work out. Robo-advisors, they're now replacing financial planners and advisors, and they can customize what you should invest in or how you should save your money. And this is becoming big in artificial intelligence in mortgage applications, loan applications, credit card applications, as well as even replacing lost credit cards. So this is going to gain artificial intelligence in the finance and banking industry. I did want to mention that China has what they call a social credit rating system. And what it does is it tracks everything you do on your phone, all your online purchases, and then it combines that information and gives you what they call an overall rating. And if the rating is less than the score of 700, you might be denied to participate in certain activities and or denied access to certain products or services. So that's taking it to a level that has me concerned, yet that is actually being done right now in China. What are the ethical issues with what I just talked about? Well, first of all, financial surveillance, and that's pretty much what I would term what is happening with China's social credit rating system. And are we going to be able to treat all market segments fairly? For example, I may not have a good credit history or may have defaulted on a loan because I encountered some bad personal times. If AI is looking at me, it might say, she's too big a risk. Do not, give her that loan or that credit card. And is that really fair? And is this going to be fair to all market segments since there's someone just starting out in their career that doesn't have a very strong credit rating or platform to apply from for a loan? So equity of treatment is going to be a big one, as well as if I am denied because of a decision-making mechanism, do I have the opportunity as a consumer or a client to appeal that decision? And how do I find that out? How is that built in by companies? And of course, where does the information go that's collected? One thing, again, it's not in particular in finance, but I'm going to use it with the pandemic, the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. The Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission is not PennDOT. However, with the pandemic, they eliminated all of their toll booth operators that give the tickets and collect for those that don't have Easy Pass. And what they do now is they just take a snapshot as your car pulls up to the toll gate, takes a picture of your license plate, takes a picture when you exit the turnpike at your exit, and then they are able to tie in your car, your name, your address, and they send you a bill. How did they get all that? Just from me driving through with a license plate number. So systems are connecting, and the consumer may not be aware that systems are connecting and information is either being sold or shared with other organizations. So how do we protect that? How do we protect that relationship with our clients and customers? And how do we not manipulate customers once we get the data from their background? Are we influencing their buying decisions in an unethical manner? Are we trying to move them to something that will benefit them, benefit us? Who makes that decision, and how is that algorithm that's developed in artificial intelligence, how is that decided, and who oversees that to make sure that any decisions that are made are both moral and legal? Now let's get a little bit into human resources. Human resources is really buying into artificial intelligence, especially in hiring processes. It's a huge time saver, and it's already resulted in a 30% headcount reduction in HR departments. In hiring decisions, artificial intelligence can spot your significant characteristics, your education, your skills, your certifications, your experience, to determine if an applicant should move forward in the hiring process. All right, so it actually scales down the work of a person, an HR person, and tells that person, here are your viable candidates that are recommended to move forward for this particular position. It also works internally by helping employees get answers to routine benefits questions that they might have, and it may help them with compiling their past experience with the company or other companies and say, you know what, these positions, these internal positions are going to be opening up, so you might want to apply for these. So it really does help in career planning, which I find fascinating. I wish I could have tapped into a resource like that rather than doing it by hand and through discussion. The other thing that's happening in human resources is that AI is starting to develop work schedules for employees, and it's starting to do repetitive tasks in human resources, with a much less error rate. However, when we look at the ethical side of human resources, we have some issues. First of all, if we use AI to measure employee performance without human participation, there can be some errors made. We're not sure if we can configure artificial intelligence intensively enough to be able to pick up subtleties of employee performance, as well as employee reactions to performance reviews, which we are supposed to have. The other thing is, when you dismiss an employee, those data sets are not as large as others. So the AI is processing on a much more limited basis of information, and sometimes that can contribute to inaccurate conclusions on the part of our hiring and dismissal process. Legally, we are required to document whenever we discipline and or remove an employee. So having artificial intelligence take that over, are we going to be able to infuse the human discussions that have taken place and be able to integrate the documentation so that there is a complete picture of a person and what took place should there be, for example, a lawsuit or unfair legal labor practice filed? And there is a big concern in all functional areas of business with bias in the programming. This is where we have to educate ourselves in management and leadership to understand artificial intelligence development enough and to be able to question who is providing us with those systems, to be able to understand if bias has been included or excluded in that system. And if errors are made, we have to be able to have people that will explain to us what went wrong so that it can be corrected. So I think everyone needs more education on artificial intelligence in order to properly lead organizations today. We're going to take a short moment here to pause for a polling question. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look into the general area of management and how artificial intelligence is affecting the leadership in those organizations. The biggest impact, the biggest area that artificial intelligence is going to impact is actually my area, business management. Middle level management in particular is going to probably see the hugest, the biggest, the most significant job loss. There's going to be a replacement of the functions that managers normally do in the middle level by artificial intelligence. So middle level managers tend to bring information from the bottom, data, up to their level, develop reports, make recommendations, filter it up to the top. Top makes decisions, middle level manager is the liaison to change things. While we will still have some of those skills necessary, what's happening is the reporting area, developing those reports and sharing of information will be taken over by AI. So it will replace management positions overseeing staff and doing those types of reports. As a result, we're going to see organizational structures more streamlined because information flows seamlessly. Anywhere, anyone will be able to access data and reports at any time and any place. So geographic location, as it has been diminishing as an issue, will diminish even further. One of the most interesting examples I found was use in management of matching invoices to supplier contracts. And it's amazing how many contracts did not fulfill what was requested appropriately. And the AI is matching that up and saying, hey, you were denied, $500,000 of supplies over the last year from this supplier or from X number of suppliers. So management is going to be able to really oversee contracts better because some companies have so many suppliers. There's not just one person that's able to keep track of all that. The issues in management may have the illusion of control, but in reality, they're going to become dependent on AI, and that may be a blind dependency. So again, we need to understand the system, how it's making decisions before we launch it, and then we have to determine who's going to own mistakes if they do occur. We have to take responsibility for our workforce. There will be job loss, especially at the lower levels, the repetitive type of task jobs. And what's our social responsibility with that? And overall, what will the world economy look like once this hits big in the next decade, 20 years? What will people do? And how many of us can get the education we need in order to move into that new area to get the jobs? The other thing is to measure profit, especially initial profit versus the triple bottom line. And I'll address the triple bottom line when we get more to the end of this presentation because it's a good consideration. When we look at artificial intelligence in manufacturing, I have a lot of fun with this one. It's really designing some amazing products that we can use. First of all, we're saving on production costs, because it helps to build and design things more efficiently. And there is more and more use of what are called collaborative robots. So you see an assembly line here with just robots in a car assembly plant. However, some of the plants will have a robot next to a person, and the robot will perform so many tasks, and then the robot actually hands the human something, and the human does something with it, and then it moves down the assembly line. So you have that robot and person collaborating together to perform different functions in production, and I find that fascinating. Dreamcatcher is an interesting AI. Dreamcatcher is an AI mechanism that is using or assisting designers of office spaces. And so if you want to rent so many floors of an office building, and you have so many people to put in there, and you have so much of a budget, and you need isolation for some departments, so to speak, you put all of your parameters into the AI, into Dreamcatcher, and Dreamcatcher will actually design the workspace for you. And many times it can come up with hundreds or even thousands of options. And then as you interact with Dreamcatcher and say, oh, I might consider this one, or I might consider that one, it learns from that. So then it starts to spin out and reduce the options or create even newer options for you to choose from. So that can be, Dreamcatcher can be used for office space, for renovation, and even plant setup. Manufacturers are now developing hundreds of thousands of strategies in autonomous and electric vehicles. I find self-driving cars enchanting and scary. I'm not sure if I'm willing to give up that control, and we already have seen that there are issues with self-driving cars. So stay tuned for this one, because I'm sure the car manufacturers are going to be jumping on board and further developing and learning from past mistakes, so that at some point maybe your children or grandchildren will not need a license. They will get into a car or some vehicle of transportation, program it to where they want to go, and it will go. So it will definitely have an impact on how we view the independence and control of transporting ourselves. So what are the ethical issues in manufacturing? Wow. Look at what's the role of your future workforce. Are you going to be able to retain people? Can you upskill what they know now into what you need them to know? And what is the responsibility there? Again, look at short-term gain in buying into something versus long-term impact. I've actually seen this with computer systems, not artificial intelligence, but straight out computer systems. Companies are being sold software packages and told this will help you in XYZ area. And then they're not even training their employees on how to use the software. It's learn as you go. And then the current software system that they've bought into and spent tens of thousands of dollars or more on is not speaking to the current system. So now the employees now have to transfer information into the new system, and it starts to have long-term impact that is negative versus positive. And some companies have even found that what they purchased isn't really meeting their needs and is creating loss of customers or clients because of it, because people get frustrated. So again, this would apply with any technology. Look at the short-term gain and impact on people, including your employees as well as your customers or clients, versus the long-term impact. Will it be positive or negative? We have to have more of that downboard thinking, which you use in the game of chess, where you plan your strategy, but you try and signal all the moves to determine where you're going to move next. So you've got to look long-term. What is the legal liability for faulty products? So I buy a self-driving transportation vehicle and I'm in an accident. Whose responsibility is that? Is it the actual car manufacturer, or is it shared with who developed the artificial intelligence to be manufactured in the car? Do you see what I'm saying? We might have an increase in more shared responsibility for faulty products or harm or injury. And again, we have to be able to explain AI decisions and what we're doing. Artificial intelligence in marketing and sales. Sales reps' jobs are becoming much more efficient. We're finding that the artificial intelligence can collect so much information from consumers. It can tap into what they buy, emails, complaints, commendations, what they're happy with. And it actually helps sales reps do prospecting for potential customers or with current customers, what other products we're coming up with that they might want to buy because of past habits and the data that we have. It can cut down on routine sales inquiries, which was probably the chatbot that I talked to, the idea behind it, where sales reps are going to be handling the more in-depth customer issues, where the more routine sales inquiries are going to be handled through chatbots. Seamless and Node are building contact lists and potential buyers. So these are two systems that are already being used that are AI mechanisms in sales and marketing. And the ethical issues, at what point do we involve the human touch to the buying and selling process? Some people may rejoice that they don't have to interact with a salesman and negotiate a price on something. Other people may want that human touch if it's to purchase something that they aren't quite knowledgeable about, and they need to be able to ask questions and ask that and have that interaction and have that reassurance. So at what point do we not use artificial intelligence or intervene and use the human touch with the AI in order to best serve our customers? It could even be a turnoff for some market segments. I'm not sure how I still feel about that chatbot experience. I'm pretty much old school. I was in telecommunications before I got into higher education, and I very much value being able to speak to someone on the phone, in a meeting, in person. So maybe my generation or those older than me are going to be turned off by organizations that are using artificial intelligence in sales and marketing. And there may be a problem. Some of the AI uses social media to determine what they sell in the store. This is actually the Trending store in London. I found very interesting. It's a retail outlet that builds their inventory from what they're seeing people are purchasing and talking about on social media. There could be issues with that. If someone is buying a politically incorrect thing, an obscene item, and it's catching on with a certain market segment, is someone who manages the Trending store overseeing that, so that they're saying, no, we're going to hold the line on this one. We're not going to put that in the store for obvious reasons. In accounting and auditing, all of these routine tasks are going to be handled or are being handled by artificial intelligence. Bookkeeping tasks, payroll, auditing, tax remittance. We're using smart assistants, which are bots, to answer routine questions for taxes and so on. And we're using artificial intelligence to detect fraud. So I think it's quite interesting in forensic accounting and for those in fraud examination that artificial intelligence is really going to be an aid for you. It will be able to detect those anomalies and even possibly insurance fraud, things like that. We're still going to need our professionals in accounting and auditing to do the higher level thinking tasks though, such as advising our clients, developing strategy, and even determining our business development or our clients' business development prospects. So while we look for the undercurrent of the repetitive tasks to be overtaken by artificial intelligence in this area, we're still going to have a need for accounting and auditing professionals and fraud examiners to be able to oversee all of this in order to make sure the work is being done properly and according to guidelines and the law. So the ethical issues, who's seeing what and who is sharing it with whom. So we want to be careful that we don't abdicate control. We also have to beef up our codes of conduct because many do not consider the use of artificial intelligence. And I'll talk about the impact of this actually in higher education as we're preparing accounting professionals a little bit later on. In investing, It can review portfolios. It can personalize portfolios for clients. It can determine investment risks and threats. And it can research and compare data from current and past transactions for consumers. So it can even advise you on the most tax efficient investing. I actually had a meeting with my financial advisor this week, and he all went into talking about when I will pay taxes if and when I retire, and how long that will I will be in that kind of a umbrella, so to speak. And I found that fascinating. I wasn't expecting him to talk about that. So this is going to be in the area of investing as well. The ethical issues are big ones. Transparency. I think I have a right as a client to know if you are using artificial intelligence to plan where I should invest my money. I think I should know that. I think I should be able to rely that at some point, if something is going amiss, that there can be human intervention, and I get a call from someone saying, we need to look at this. Here's what's happening. I'm very curious to see how fees are going to be constructed as we integrate artificial intelligence into this process. And again, who's going to be responsible for the errors? So let's stop a little bit for some polling before we go into artificial intelligence in the healthcare industry. Healthcare, artificial intelligence, you know, we're in the pandemic right now, and it's being used to determine vaccine development. It's also looking at holes in the research, scientific research that's been done, to see if we can find something that may lead us into a new area of research in order to combat disease or to find vaccines. AI bots, as you see in this picture, are assisting doctors and nurses and pharmacists in delivery of patient care. And AI bots are able to read X-rays and MRI scans and so on to detect certain types of condition in patients. And it might even be able at some point to help us reverse diseases. One of the interesting areas here, my daughter is a registered dietitian, so she's heavy into patient care and working with medical professionals in order to help people reverse, for example, diabetes. And AI is going to impact her field, and I'm not sure how much, or if the American Dietetics Association is looking at that. The main issue that I see in healthcare is responsibility for mistakes, malpractice, and mistakes in treatment, misdiagnoses. Who is going to take responsibility for that? Who's going to safeguard the patient? And also, will there be a loss of the compassion element, the human touch? I can't imagine being in assisted living or in a hospital and going through surgery or have a disease that I'm being treated for and have a bot come in to take my vitals or to advise me of what a scan showed or what my blood test results are. I think we're headed in that direction, and that's a concern. So we have to be careful here of safeguarding the patient and be sure of the type of service that we're rendering in healthcare. Next is a fun one. This is artificial intelligence in the arts. AI is currently writing plays, poems, essays, and music, and actually making art, works of art. This is Yona. She was developed by Ash Kusha. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's actually a British-Iranian songwriter. And Yona actually is an AI bot, and she writes songs and sings. And while she performs, she is replicating human emotions. So I'd like you to hear Yona.
I never felt alone. You never said a word. I fell from my throne. You didn't want me there. You didn't want me near. You didn't want me there. I never heard you say, if every life I live is the same without you, I'd pull the plug, so we'd live forever. And I see what you see, so we'd live forever. And I hear what you hear. If you cry with every smile, I'll make you stare. Forget where you were when it all happened. So you...
I'm going to stop it there. I think that's enough of a exposure so that you get the idea of what AI music is going to sound like. And of course, there are ethical issues with this. There's another example I want to show you is, let's see if I can get it here. Yeah, here we go. This is actually on YouTube. I'm not going to play it for you. This is actually a portrait called Portrait of Edmund Bellamy that recently sold at Christie's auction house. It's the first AI created portrait, and it's sold for $432,500. The expected value of it was between $7,000 to $10,000. And what this means is we're actually changing our definition of art. And I wonder about people that invest in art, what this is going to mean to the investment industry.
For the first time ever.
So the ethical issues are intellectual property rights, who owns the pieces that are created through AI, and who gets the profits. And can we still call them creative works, because we usually had reserved creativity for humans? And what will happen to our human mental and emotional processing when we start to listen to AI music? You know that there has been research done on the impact of watching violent movies or playing violent video games and the impact on our own behavior. Will there be some type of effect long term as we become enchanted with this type of music and listen to it repeatedly? We have no idea what we're headed into in that realm. In other areas, in education, artificial intelligence can help students see where they're making mistakes. It'll help us grade papers. Google will actually help us translate languages. It's already doing that and becoming more and more sophisticated. Alter Ego is interesting. It's developed by MIT, and it's a wearable device that knows what the person is going to say before they say it. And what it does is it interprets the electrical impulses in your jaw, because as you're thinking thoughts, your mouth is moving into action to say those words, and Alter Ego is able to pick that up. In baseball, the Atlantic League, which is an independent baseball league on the East Coast, I think it has 8 teams, AI is assisting the umpires in calling balls and strikes. So the sports industry is going to be affected. And Epic Flash Driver was developed through AI by Carlow, used in golf. They programmed in what they wanted the driver to be able to achieve with distance and height of the ball as the golfer uses it. And it developed the Epic Flash driver. It actually spit out the specs, and here we go. So what's going to happen with competitiveness in sports and the equipment that we use and how we think about sports? The larger ethical issues with artificial intelligence, I would be remiss if I did not talk about those. We're talking long-term about redefining what it means to be human, or we may even be creating another species. We have challenges with determining intellectual property, creativity. We may even have to change our definition of death down the road. We're typing individuals, and we haven't even talked about the incorporation of artificial intelligence into the military. Japan is actually leading the way for artificial intelligence in the realm of companionship and relationships. 14% of their population live alone. Grandchildren and children have moved away, so families are separated and the birth rate is down. They've developed various AI bots that interact with people to bring them comfort and companionship, even to help in healthcare. One of them is called Robert. He is a 300-pound bot, and for people that are infirmed, he picks them up and assists them. So he can carry them from place to place, and he can assist them in normal activities. Paro, P-A-R-O, is a seal. That is a bot, an AI bot, and it is used in assisted living facilities for people who are lonely, and it responds to touch. So if you pet the seal, it blinks and wags its tail, and it's apparently bringing comfort to people. So we look for companionship and relationships, those whole definitions, to change. When we talk about, well, gee, what can we do here? There are some tools that we can use in order to flesh out the ethical questions with artificial intelligence. Stahl in 2010 actually came up with some guidelines for determining ethical issues with any type of emerging technology. First, he says, look at the larger issues related to the technology, the new technology, just define them, excuse me. Second, he says, how are you going to apply it? And then project the ethical issues with that, with the applications. And then third, rank the ethical implications and then determine how you're going to counter them or how you're going to oversee them and if you need any policy changes as a result. So this is a very simple three-step guideline that you can use that's actually been out there for quite a while. You can also follow the four-principle approach in using that three-step guideline. Think about autonomy, justice, beneficence, and non-maleficence. Preventing harm, telling the truth, making issues that are decisions that are fair and just for all, and protecting individual rights. We can ensure that programming with artificial intelligence is in our best interests and prevent potential bias in programming as long as we're knowledgeable that it can occur and have the right people working for us and advising us. Determine who's using artificial intelligence and for what reasons. This is going to be magnified in our global economy. As I stated before, we don't know what countries are developing, researching and developing it and for what purpose. And this could have huge security implications for us down the road. So any decision we make, we need to ensure the security of our individuals. Currently, it's interesting to note that there is no international agreement on the use of artificial intelligence. We just have no idea what others are doing. And that's a cause for concern that I hope will be addressed possibly by United Governments and or the United Nations and or both. Ethical tools and processes. We can use our tried and true ethics tools, incorporate ethical expectations, concerning artificial intelligence right into your codes of ethics, right into mission statements, right into your values, who you hire, training and development, reward systems, protect the people that report unethical issues, allow the whistleblowing to occur without any kind of ramification to those individuals. Instill ethical issues in artificial intelligence right into strategic planning processes. I think it's very important to understand that we plan for this, and that way we can flush out the issues that we're going to be faced with and then make the decisions we have to as a result to move ahead, not to move ahead, change the way we move ahead. We have to consider the triple bottom line: profit, people, and planet, and bring those into balance. That's the only way to ensure that humanity maintains control of artificial intelligence versus the other way around. We have to be very extremely proactive in doing that. Have transparency with our employees and make sure that they are actually brought into the discussion process. It's important to have buy-in to limit the fear in organizations that's going to result from artificial intelligence being incorporated. And employees are your best source of information. They can tell you where the problems are, and they can tell you what they've encountered and possibly even how to solve them, which could be built into the programming. Let's take a moment for a final polling, and we'll continue with the impact of artificial intelligence in higher education. So as I stated at the beginning, I got into this area of research with a student, and the concern was, is our curriculum in the business majors what it needs to be in order to prepare the future workforce, our students. We looked at 36 higher education institutions that were considered competitors of Carlow University. Only, you see the statistics here, very small statistics on those that had majors at the undergraduate or graduate level in AI. In fact, only one, two had an undergraduate minor or concentration, and about 13, so roughly a third, had undergraduate coursework in either artificial intelligence, machine learning, or both areas. Many of the programs still had the former title of Management Information Systems courses, and there was no way that I could determine if there was artificial intelligence content in those courses or not. So that remains a little bit of a mystery. What concerned me was that while 36% of the institutions had some type of coursework in AI or machine learning, those courses were housed in computer science, information technology, or data analytics. I did not find any in business management, accounting. I even looked at forensic accounting or human resources. So this basically says we have our work cut out for us, and we need to move up our game in higher education, in the business majors, in order to prepare our future workforce for you in business and industry. We need to be able to integrate artificial intelligence into all discipline areas and challenge our employees and our students to think about the ethical issues. Our certifications, whether it be in accounting, whether it be in fraud examination, whether it be certifications in management, we have to begin on the professional exams to include information on artificial intelligence, so that people are prepared to challenge and develop questions related to ethics in this area when they get into business and industry. We look for partnerships, and we look to expand actually partnerships between education and business and industry. And we actually hope to increase the emphasis on the liberal arts in colleges and universities, because liberal arts students, when they get that foundation, are able to, research shows, are able to come at problems and situations taking into account different perspectives to arrive at solutions and to create and innovate. So the liberal arts are of phenomenal importance in any major, and I would endorse them no matter where anyone goes to college. Stephen Hawking said, "The rise of powerful artificial intelligence will either be the best or the worst thing ever to happen to humanity. We do not yet know which." I think that is a powerful statement. I think that's a statement that should be discussed as we move forward with buying into AI systems. Now, while we're using artificial intelligence currently, most areas are at more of the elementary and developmental level. It's still very powerful and will certainly develop faster as we learn from what we're already using it for. But the age of artificial general intelligence, where artificial intelligence is going to be able to outperform humans to the point where it will have common sense, emotions, self-awareness, is said to be at least 30 years away. The question is, what impact will this have on our companies, our industries, our economies, our lives? We have to think both personally and professionally where we're headed and start to investigate the possibilities and the ramifications of using artificial intelligence. The ethical questions need to be discussed now, need to start at the top level, and need to filter down throughout the organizations. Only then can we put all the pieces in place through all of our stakeholders in our environment to be able to make the world better functioning and not detrimental to humanity. Thank you so much for the opportunity of being with you today. I very much appreciate being here, and I hope you found it interesting and informative. Thank you.